Hello and welcome to Quartal Out, your car brochure channel. In today's episode, we start looking at this, the Leyland Cars all model catalogue. Hello and welcome back, and if you're new to Quartal Out, we're a car brochure channel here on YouTube, looking at car brochures from around the world for the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s, and sometimes beyond that as well. So if you're interested in cars and of course car brochures, please consider subscribing. I'm sure there's something interesting that you'll find here. And yes, today we're going to be diving into this rather nice brochure. Actually, it's one of my favourite brochures. It's for the Leyland catalogue, the old model catalogue I should say, and this is actually dated September 1977, and it's amazing how many different cars were available under that Leyland Cars moniker at this time. So let's have a look at this rather interesting brochure. And an interesting front cover. So Leyland Cars all model catalogue. Leyland sort of plug hole of dismay or doom at the top there, and then this rather interesting little drawn image, and it's not very well drawn. I'm sure the people, sort of the artists who did the brochures in the 50s and 60s would say this is horrendous, but actually I think it works very well for 77. Let's just zoom in a little bit. So basically it's got all these different models going around this sort of make-believe road, which is in fact, you know, the badge itself. The Leyland plug hole of doom is now the road of doom or dismay, I guess, and all these different makes and models of cars going around it. Very poorly drawn really, they're very roughly drawn, but I quite like the sort of colourful layout of it. And you can also see the cars themselves were never actually drawn for this background. Looks like they've been drawn separately and just kind of like cut out and stuck on. You know, this is about to drive on top of this Range Rover, for example, and this Allegro looks like it's about to take off. So a strange thing overall, and you know, it goes right down to the bottom here. This Spitfire about to fly off the side of the road, so it doesn't look like there was ever actually made to be driven actually on this made up road. They've just been stuck on, and even some of the cars are kind of like so poorly drawn, they're actually hard to make out what they are. I mean, that looks more like an FSR really, doesn't it, than a Triumph, but there we go. Certainly not to the standards of the 50s and 60s, but you know, if you look back at it, I think there's something about it. I quite like the front cover. If I zoom to the back page, it really gives you a great idea of all the cars that are actually available at the time. Quite incredible really. I'll just zoom in for you. And it says, you know, buy your Leyland Cars, where you see the sign and a list of all the different manufacturers. So Austin, Morris, Triumph, Rover, Daimler, all available at the time. And look at all those different models. So under Austin we could have the Austin Mini, Allegro, Vandenpla 1500, Maxi, Princess, MG Midget, MGB, MGB GT. And then under Morris we've got Morris Mini, Marina, Princess, MG Midget, MGB, MGB GT. And then we've got Triumph with the Dolomite, Spitfire and TR7, the Rover, the SD1s of course, 2300, 2600, 3500 Rovers, and of course the Range Rover. And then Jaguar, we've got the XJ 3.4, 4.2 and 5.3, and also the XJS. And then of course we've got Daimler on top of that, the Sovereign 3.4, 4.2 and 6.6, the Vandenpla 4.2, 6.6 Vandenpla, and the Daimler Limousine. So what an incredible list of so many. I mean, you kind of like think at the top of the world with all these different cars, but I guess at the same time all these different cars to manufacturers kind of also the downfall as well, you could say. And you kind of like your distributors or main dealers, a few of the lists back there: Jack Barclay Limited, Coombs and Sons, Lex Motors, Stratton Limited, or Stratstone Limited, I should say. A few of those listed there. So again, interesting to see, and a nice picture of the time. And then finally, if we go to the bottom of this back page, we've got Leyland Cars address there, British Leyland UK Limited. The date there, 977. I don't know if you can just about make that out. September 1977 is the brochure. By the Nuffield Press Limited, Cowley, Oxford, England. And then finally at the bottom there is a bit of a publication number there for the brochure collectors out there. But like I say, one of my favourite brochures because it's such an extensive list of different cars. So let's open the first page and have a look inside. And as we look at the front cover, we've got a nice sort of introduction of the Minis and the Clubman there. And at the side here, we've over 50 models to choose from. The only problem is making up your mind. And then this unusual little image, a little bit of a cartoon style drawing. I don't know who drew this, but showing, you know, the sort of the flagship model carrying the lowest model, I guess, is what it's trying to show. You know, the Mini in the boot of this giant Daimler limousine. And look at the size of the tyres that have been drawn on this particular version. Now, I'm sure that wasn't possible, but, you know, I think it's trying to show the huge range of cars that are available and shown in this brochure. So the brochure does start with the Mini and goes all the way to the Daimler limousine. Yeah, even the Daimler limousine is in this brochure. So an interesting brochure all round. Now, of course, the brochure does start with the 1977 Minis. So I think that's where we'll start with this episode. Let's have a look at the Minis. So it's what I was supposed to say, mini size cost with family size comfort. You're thinking big when you buy a British Leyland Mini because it's a car that's big in cost saving and fuel economy. It's big in reliability, road holding and room. It has always been a big hit with motorists in all spheres of life and is now in bigger demand than ever before. In Britain and on the continent where, according to popular opinion, they know a thing or two about motor cars. The only real small thing about the Mini is the amount of space it occupies on the road and in parking places. You see, the designers thought big at the very beginning, sweeping all preconceived ideas and starting afresh with something entirely new. That was some years ago, of course. Today's Mini is much more refined, more comfortable and better equipped, but still just as much fun. All the results of progressive research and development to give you the biggest and best Mini possible, to keep you Mini ahead of the competition. And there you go, rather a nice little scene there. We've got that Miniclubman in this metallic blue, which would have looked quite striking, I think, in metallic blue in 77. Very nice looking car. And then in the background, of course, you know, Dad has got the Rover SD1 in the garage there. So a lovely little image there to start. The brochure, of course, and, you know, the Mini was a very nice place to start. But of course they weren't just a Clubman. Let's see what else in the Mini range we had in 77. And indeed it opens up to a nice page, and really there are very clever and very nice photographs of the cars all the way through this brochure. Of course we've got the Mini 850s and 1000s and, you know, a more traditional looking car. And of course we've got the Clubmans as well being sold at the same time, although our more traditional Mini actually outlived the Clubmans, didn't they? So the Miniclubman's saloon and estate, yeah, we can get an estate Clubman at this time. And of course the Mini 1275 GT. Now notice, some people sometimes call these the Miniclubman 1275 GT. Incorrect. Never uses the Clubman name, it's just the Mini 1275 GT, although of course it shares that Clubman front end. But let's start here with the 850s and 1000. So there we go, we've got both an 850 and a 1000 saloon at this time. You get a choice of out and out economy on one hand and a little more power on the other, with both models having a long established reputation for reliability There is sporty remote control lever for slick gear changing, with extra cost option of automatic transmission on the 1000. Controllability generally is a strong feature on all Minis, with their front wheel drive and all-round independent suspension. In just over 10 foot overall length, the interior offers a surprising amount of room for 4 people, with seats designed to give good support, and there's plenty of space to stow the usual odds and ends. For more bulky objects, you'll find the luggage boot a very useful place indeed. Whether you're a 1-car, 2-car or 3-car family, whether you are a male or a female person, in whatever age group, the Leyland Mini makes so much sense it deserves very serious consideration. So very unusual 70s language there, but let's have a look at the cars. So we've got this quite unusually coloured green example. It's quite a nice colour actually for the little 850s, and next to it it's showing the 1000 by the side of it there. If you look at the back though, you'll notice on those rear tailgate, the tail lights I should say, I don't know if you can see that on camera, hopefully you can, maybe I should zoom in a little bit. You can just about make out on that tail light, we've now got reversing lights in that cluster there. From 77 we did have those incorporated reversing lights, which are quite nice. And these Minis overall were commonly known as the Mark IV Minis. They had very small little evolutions of Minis over time. It also rather nicely gives us a look at the interior, or at least the dash at least. So the little 850 was very basic, wasn't it? Look at that, just one little speedo, and then if we move down to the 1000 we got a couple of extra gauges in there as well. Let's have a look at the Clubmans and the 1275 GT. So here are 3 different ways in which you can enjoy all the big advantages of the Mini motoring. The stylish Clubman saloon, powered by a 1098cc 4-cylinder engine, has a handsome interior design which offers seating. The front ones are rake adjusting, with wearing surfaces trimmed in cropped nylon, face level ventilation and carpeting throughout. It's a little gem of a car. Then there's the Clubman Estate, the Mini with the mostest in luggage carrying capacity, yet it is just as comfortable as the saloon, has the same standard of furnishings and performs in the same lively, likeable manner. You simply adjust the back seat to suit the occasion. And then of course at the top of the Mini range is the 1275 GT. Its 1275cc engine develops 54 bhp for safe and rapid overtaking, and provides an easy 70 mph cruising speed on motorways. But quick and sporty though it is, the Mini 1275 GT is a different class from the traditional sports car. The GT really does mean grand touring. And then we've got the standard Clubman, and then 2 rather nice images of the estate and that lovely 1275 GT, which was always my favourite, quite simply because as a kid I had a Scale Electric set. It had 2 Mini 1275 GTs in it, one yellow, one red. I always loved the yellow one, and I always wanted the yellow though. I never actually owned one, but still rather a lovely little car. Of course, the Clubmans had a bit of a longer nose, so they had kind of better crash protection than the normal Minis. They were, like it said in the text there, better equipped, and of course, with that longer nose, they were actually easier to work on, better underbody access. But of course, they were more expensive, and rather strangely, they're actually less aerodynamic than the original Mini, which is a bit unusual. These were really replaced when the Metro came along, and the traditional Mini certainly carried on for a lot longer. So this is the interior of the Clubman, with this more sort of modern looking controls, with the dials now directly in front of the driver. Clubman interior, nothing to get too excited about really, is it? Just a dark, sombre interior really. And then there we have the 1275 GT interior. Yes, we've got a rev counter. And then we got the specifications. So the 850s there, they had a little 848cc engine. The 1000s had a 998cc. If we move down the list, in fact we might as well look at the Clubmans as well. So the Clubmans had a 1098cc there. Gearboxes, 4-speed synchromesh on forward gears. And overall, obviously the Mini was a winning formula. It went on for a long time, of course. Brakes, drums all round, but really that was quite adequate for such a small car in the 70s, of course. What we can say about the Mini, it was a fantastic car, wasn't it? After all, yeah, the Clubman possibly wasn't as loved as much as the traditional Mini, but I even have a little bit of a soft spot for the Clubmans as well. I'm not going to read out all the specifications, but you know, on the left there, that's the 850 and 1000. Clubman's there on the right. Lots of information there. Like I said, I'm not going to read it all out, but I'm sure if you pause the screen and really wanted to, you could probably read that yourself. And you know, it continues down. Talks about optional extras. Of course, we could get an auto transmission on the 1000 standard Mini. Optional extras on the Clubman. Again, we could get the auto transmission with the 998cc. So that's interesting that you could get the 998 on the Clubman if you opted for the auto. You could also get that metallic paint finish on the saloon as well on the Clubman. And then of course you do have the range topper, the 1275 GT with the 1275cc engine, as you would imagine, again with a 4-speed synchromesh on all forward gears. And then it gives you some information about the road wheels there. And interesting, if you look at the brakes now for the 1275, we do have discs at the front and drums at the rear. And then it continues with information about the suspension and electrical if you want to have a look at that yourself. Information about the instruments and coach work. Apologise, it is a little bit in the kind of like crease there. And then if we move down, it gives you information about the dimensions and the optional extra, which is not also available. You could just have an option of having metallic paint for your 1275 GT. And what would come logically after your Mini? Of course, the Maxi. So you had a Mini and a Maxi. It makes sense, doesn't it? Quite like the Maxi. And I guess if we move back to the Clubmans, of course, and just zoom in a moment, the Clubman face really matched more with the Maxi, didn't it? So it looked a bit more like part of the family with the Clubman, and indeed these little side lights and indicators were shared with the Maxi, as we can see there. And I always liked the Maxi, but I think we'll stop the episode there, as you know, we've been going on for some time. So there we go, a quick look at, or at least a start of a look at this Leyland Cars all model catalogue for September 77. And of course, just in the comments if you do want to continue looking had I have certainly a soft spot for Leyland Cars. I don't know if you watchers also do. A lot of memories, of course. I don't know if it's because I had a bit of a soft spot for the underdog, I don't know, but I always loved these cars, and you can't doubt what an incredible, huge range of cars are produced in 77. Thank you for watching today. Also, if you could consider subscribing, that certainly would be very kind of you and would certainly help the channel. It's completely free and it helps you not miss any episodes, although we're making episodes 4 times a week now, so with lots of information for you, lots of brochure reviews already done, hundreds already done, many more to come. Obviously that number will just keep growing and growing. Thank you so much for watching today. Please do take care. Oh, I've also put a couple of little boxes there. They're just for other videos. If you click on those, if you're on a tablet or a PC, that'll take you to further videos. Thank you so much for watching. Take care and goodbye.